We want to welcome everybody out this evening to the Chamber of Commerce debate between, this is a tongue twister. If you haven't ever put these together and tried to say them quickly, I urge you to do that in the privacy of your own home. Kay Christopherson and Christy Kane. My name is Christopher Jones. I think in this, you have to have feeler plosives in your name in order to campaign or be a part of what's going on here tonight. But we're very grateful that they were willing to come and spend some time with us this evening. And are happy to have all of you here as well. Before I go any further, I want to make sure that I mention this. There is another debate. The next one is June the 19th. That's a Tuesday at American Fork Junior High School. And apparently it's we have 9 of the 10 candidates in the county are going to be attending, at least 9 of 10. We have 9 of 10 confirmed. I guess we still got the 10th one.
That's Orrin Hatch is the 10th.
Orrin Hatch is the 10th one.
So it's state, federal, and
so we'll get 9 out of 10 then. I'm sure he's busy. So that's the 19th of June, 7 to 8. There'll be question and answer during the debate, and then there will be meet and greet time afterward. That's American Fork Junior High School on Tuesday, June the 19th. We especially want to thank Don Milakovich, who is the Executive Director of Lehigh Chamber of Commerce, and Heather Miller, who is the former Executive Director of the Lehigh Area Chamber of Commerce for their work in setting this event up this evening. We're grateful to have you here, and we hope that you've taken a minute to submit questions. Now, I want to ask this. Do you have extra cards? You're going to want that, see, because they're going to introduce themselves, and they're going to say something that you're going to want to call them on later or ask them more questions about. So questions you don't have to submit them now, you can submit them later. They go to these lovely people up here so that I don't cheat and or have to spend 10 minutes reading them all before I decide which ones we're going to ask. They're just going to feed me. The debate format works like this. The candidates will introduce themselves. Mr. Christopherson will introduce himself first. Ms. Kane will introduce herself. And then we'll go into the question and answer period. Each candidate will have 2 minutes on each question, alternating who goes first and who goes last, and then we will reverse the order at the end of the question time for at about 8 o'clock for them to make a summation and finish up. And any questions about that? Since we have a small enough group, we can ask questions. Everybody good with that? Understand the rules? Yeah, and as I mentioned, make sure if you want extra cards, mail that. There we go. If you want extra cards, here they are. So you can pick those up, and feel free. Don't be self-conscious. And we're all friends here. Pick the questions up, and please, during the debate, you're welcome to submit questions all the way up to the end, and we want you to do so. You'll also have an opportunity when we're finished to talk to the candidates individually and ask your questions of them individually if you don't want to submit the questions to the group. Okay? Before we get started, as is traditional in chamber events, we'd like to have a Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would all rise, please. If you would repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. My name is Chris Jones. I'm the former chairman of the board of the Chamber of Commerce, former president of the Lehigh Rotary Club, and it's my privilege to be the debate moderator this evening. It's a task that I get to perform pretty much every year. It's a state election. I get to do one with state candidates. If it's an off year, then I get the city candidates, and we get to do the mayor and the city council. It's something that I enjoy greatly, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to do it tonight. Looking forward to a lively exchange. So, as per our agreement, Mr. Christopherson, you're first.
Let me set my clock here so I know. Welcome tonight, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I appreciate all of you coming tonight. It's really hard to get away on a busy weeknight, and I know that sometimes you put politics at the back of the list, but it's nice of you to spend the time to come out and learn about our campaigns and and find out which one you'd like to represent, which one of us you'd like to represent. I wanted to just tell a little bit about my background. I know a lot of you, I'm from Lehigh, and I was actually born in the Lehigh Hospital. And my great-great-grandfather's statue is just out here, David Evans. He was one of the founders of Lehigh. So I feel like I know this place well and understand a lot of the values and the principles that each of you have. I went to school at BYU and graduated in civil engineering, and went on to get my professional engineering license. I worked at Geneva Rock Products for many years, and that's one of the Clyde companies. I worked for the Clyde companies my whole professional life, and became the vice president of construction at Geneva Rock, and then we bought some other companies. I was the president and CEO of H.E. Davis Construction, and then later on we bought other companies, and I became the president of a company called Sunrock Corporation. And we operated in 4 states, had a multi-million-dollar revenue, and in that experience I learned how to run an organization and to understand those things that private companies have to deal with and sometimes put up with. And part of my experience in the private sector is working with the government. I worked with UDOT, with UTA, I worked with DFCM, and SITLA. There were other governmental agencies I worked for, and in that experience I learned how the government deals with its customers, who are us, the citizens, and came up with some ideas along the way of this is how I would like things to improve. These are the things that I think could improve for businesses and for individuals. And so part of my motivation after I retired to get into this area, this arena, was to say, I can do something about it now. I have the time, and I look forward to answering your questions. I appreciate you being here, and thank you very much.
Oh, I forgot to mention, I apologize for, that's going to be lovely. Everybody hear that? That's good. I'll just hold the mic right down. Applause is permitted. We prefer you didn't boo unless you're willing to sit up here and take the slings and arrows as well. So, first person that boos has to run for governor. And just keep that in mind. Or worse, mayor or something. Ms. Kane.
Okay, I'm Christy Kane, and I'm grateful that you've all come this evening. This is a wonderful opportunity. You know, someone asked me why anybody would want to do this. And the reason is I believe that citizens can make a difference. And that's what you're doing tonight by being here. There are so many people on election day that kind of walk into that booth. I don't know how they choose, maybe eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and they pick a name. But you guys are proving that you care because you're here tonight to listen to KNI. So you are to be commended in your involvement as citizens. So I truly mean that, and I say thank you. Let me tell you just a little bit about me. My maiden name is Peck, and so when you think about Lehigh here, you all know the Peck family, and that are my ancestors. However, my part of the Peck family went to Idaho, and I was born and raised in Idaho. And I moved to Utah when I came to BYU, and I haven't left Utah since then. It's a beautiful place. I am a mental health counselor by profession. I own a treatment center for troubled youth. That's what I do professionally. I have the rare opportunity of helping young people who have had difficult lives get an opportunity for a different pathway. and I use a equine therapeutic intervention program to do that. So that's what I do professionally. I have 3 great kids, and it's a privilege to be a mother, and it's fun to watch them grow up, and I'm grateful that I was blessed to be able to be a mom. Politically, I believe that there's some critical issues facing Utah. I ran for this seat 10 years ago, and then I decided it was time to focus on my children, and now they're raised. I have a senior and a young lady who's a sophomore at BYU, and I have a sophomore son. And so it's a perfect timing where I can step back in and do this. Critically, I'm concerned about entitlements, immigration, healthcare, education, and fiscal responsibility. And I'm hoping this evening, as you ask me questions, you'll be able to find out some of my interests in those areas and some of the things that I want to accomplish. I do believe in this nation. I believe in the principles upon which our founding fathers created this nation. And I believe that states' rights are more powerful and more important than the federal government. And we have allowed the federal government to take away our rights. And it is time, as states and as citizens, we help Washington, D.C. get back under control, because I do not believe she will do it herself. But I do believe that as citizens, we can preserve the principles this nation was founded upon. Thank you.
Time. Okay. Are we clear down range here?
We are.
Excellent. A combo question.
Yes, that's the combo part of it.
Didn't realize an advanced degree was a requirement for this job. All right. Christy, we'll start with you then. Go in reverse order from this point on. Let me ask that as a combo question. What do you feel the purpose of government is? And the second part of that is, what is your number one priority in getting it back to that purpose?
The number one purpose I feel of government is to be limited. Government was never intended to be dependent upon, to be the catch-all. It was created as a way in which to protect the fundamental and alienable rights of mankind. And we have gone way beyond that. And the way that I would get back to that is limitation. We need to get rid of duplication, we need to get rid of agencies, and we need to allow people to take the role in being independent, in determining education and their futures. And now we have more and more people feel like it's owed to them, like they're entitled to things. And that is not the government's responsibility. Simply put, the government is to be limited, and we need to reduce it.
Let me start this. The government gains its power from each of us. And when the United States was established to start a government, people get together and say, I'm going to delegate my authority, or we are, delegate our authority to a group of individuals to act as a government. And so we have no more authority, the government has no more authority than we as individuals have. And so, but we have given the government authority to protect us, protect our rights, protect us from each other, to protect us from foreigners, and to do certain things, and those are enumerated in the Constitution. There are sometimes, though, that the government oversteps those bounds, and my number one goal is to get the government back to a level where we can have our freedoms and they don't overregulate us. There are so many regulations that businesses have that it's hard for them to manage their business, and they're losing incentive to take that risk to jump into business. And I think if we could reduce the regulations and the taxes and the entitlements and those things that the government are involved in that impede progress of employers and us as individuals, as soon as we can do that, then we'll be able to have a vibrant economy where employers are going to be running after people for jobs, and that will help us a lot. We want to encourage jobs. Thank you.
Okay. Go on here. Thank you very much. We'll go in reverse order on this question, which is,
somebody was worried we were going to run out. That would be the first time that's ever happened to me.
all right, what experiences in your life do you consider preparatory for serving in public office?
I mentioned a little bit in my opening statement about the experiences that I had working with the many government entities in my experience working for a private company. And I worked with OSHA and MSHA, the safety organizations from the state. I worked with the Department of Environmental Quality. I worked with SITLA, which is the State Institutional Trust Lands. We use some of those lands for our business, and that money goes towards helping education. I worked with UDOT. I worked on bids for I-15, and then I worked on the light rail for UTA. We built the line from Main Street to the University of Utah Hospital on 4th South in Salt Lake. Many other projects for states and for the state and communities, the cities, and all of these gave me experience that helped me to understand how government works and gave me ideas of how things should improve. And those are the experiences that I look at. How much time do I have left?
37 seconds.
Okay, one experience that on a city level, I just want to make sure I have time to tell the story, but you know, just a simple experience that we all have had. How many people remember when the cities used to run their own garbage service? Well, that was a city job. Now, most of them subcontract that out, and it's a private job. And they contract that out because it's more efficient, more effective. And I think those kind of experiences that I've had over the years teach me that some of the free market economic principles work the best, and they can work in government as well. Thank you.
How long is our response is supposed to be for each question?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. I think I can answer. I've been preparing my whole life for the opportunity to serve my country. I grew up in a very patriotic family. My great-grandfather served in World War I. My grandfather put on a uniform in the Korean War. And my father in Vietnam. And I was taught from a very, very young age what a wonderful privilege it is to be an American. When Old Glory goes by, I know you stand. And I know what she means. I've read all the documents this nation was founded upon. I understand the Constitution. I've read John Locke. I've read the Federalist Papers. I know what our founding fathers intended when they created the greatest nation on earth. I've served as a planning and zoning commissioner. I've served as a homeowners association president. I've been a precinct chair, a state delegate, a county delegate. I sat at the legislature this last session. I testified before Senate committees. I listened to the debates. I served as a girls' state senator and a girls' nation senator. When I was 17, I had lunch at the White House in the Rose Garden with my hero, Ronald Reagan. And I have waited and known that I would serve my country, not by putting on a uniform, but by making sure the principles this nation was founded upon was preserved. And I'm a small business owner. I know what it means to balance a budget. I know when people depend on you for a job so they can provide for their families. And I understand what it means to work with the government because I have seven governmental regulatory agencies that regulate my business. And so I know when I'm talking about government needs to be reduced and cut back, what I'm talking about. This is a great nation, and I am prepared to serve.
Thank you. Next question. Oh, see, now you messed up. And we got more.
No, that's a good thing.
Oh, it is. Well, I like it.
It's not a mess up.
Keep them coming. Okay. Oh my gosh. This isn't a question. This is a paragraph. Okay.
It's full of, exactly. That's why we chose it.
1A. You can answer any of the three, all of the three, or heck, it's your time. None of the three. What is your Ms. King, you'll go first. What is your stance on Common Core? If you are against it, why, and what would you do to oppose it? And I guess C is then the reverse. If you're in favor of it, why? So this is one of those essay questions you get in English. What is your stance on Common Core, and why? Ms. Kane, 2 minutes.
I can answer that very clearly. I am opposed to Common Core. And the reason is I believe that any time as a state we sell our rights to a federally mandated program, we lose control. I have gone to several meetings. I went to the Granite School District presentation. I visited with members of the Alpine School Board. And they have tried to present this proposal that it's not a federal initiative, that it is a consortium of governors and educators who got together and decided that there needed to be standards uniform for every single state across the board. But the truth is there was federal money offered in Race to the Top. There is federal money taking place in the creation of the assessments. And the federal government is going to mandate the assessments. And if you're going to be tested by assessments created by the federal government, that means that the curriculum is going to have to be taught so that you can pass the assessments. I believe in our education system here in the state of Utah. We're ranked very high for the amount of money that we spend on our education. We do a great job. I strongly support teachers in being able to teach to the individual student in the classroom and making sure that the curriculum matches the need of the student. I have 3 children, and trust me, I don't parent those 3 kids the same. It would never work. That's the same with educating children. You don't educate them the same. They are different. And so I want to strengthen the curriculum in Utah standards that the teachers can create and develop for their students in the classroom. No, I do not support Common Core.
My philosophy on education is that the more that you can push decisions down to the lowest level that those decision makers can make, the better off you are. And anytime you centralize control or power, you get a less desired result. You get corruption, you get mismanagement. And so anything that we can do to push that control and authority down to the state, the school districts, even the schools and the teachers. I was talking to some teachers today that they just said it got to be where we couldn't even teach because we had so much paperwork to put out that we just couldn't get through this subject matter, and it made our lives a lot more difficult. And so I think that definitely we need to the federal government needs to get out of the business of education. We don't need to have a Department of Education on a federal level. we need to bring that down to local level, and even Utah needs to push a lot of that authority down to lower levels, to the school districts and the schools and teachers. My children have all gone to the public schools, and I appreciate what they do. There's a lot of things that they do great. There's some things that we can do better. There are things that we can do better in other venues of education, and those are the things that I want to work on. I want to keep local control, and I want to let parents have more of a voice in the things that they feel are best for their children and make the decisions that meet their needs the best.
Thank you. Thanks. Next question. You support cutting taxes. I assume that means that somebody's actually cheated and been here for a sneak preview before. What cuts in the budget would you support to enable tax reductions? Okay, you're first this time. 2 minutes.
One of the biggest problems, the way the government looks at things, is the way what Ronald Reagan said: if it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, then you've got to subsidize it. And so the government is taxing us more than we need. It's just hurting our economy. It's hurting businesses. And in the private sector, if I didn't provide a good quality product at a decent price, then my customers went elsewhere. If I didn't serve them and take care of them, they went to the competitor. In the government, their answer to the question is, let's raise taxes. And they never say, let's cut, or let's make things more efficient. And with my experience in business, we had to be accountable and responsible for the balance sheet and each of the monthly income statements. We had to say, what can we do to make this work? And we were responsible for that, or we were moved on. And so I propose that we take those similar measures in all of the government agencies and say, okay, tell us how you're going to be accountable for this money that we give you, and we're going to reduce where we can. And we want to see your innovative action to make things happen. So those are the things that I think we can do, is introduce accountability and responsibility by the departments.
So the question was asked, where would I reduce taxes? I am pleased with Utah's decision to have a flat tax. And if I had all the power in the world, I would have a frank conversation with the federal government. I would do away with the 16th Amendment, undo the IRS, and go to a flat tax federally. Personally, I like the tax initiative that is a sales tax, which allows it to be equitable for everyone and have the opportunity to determine their own consumption of taxation based on what they spend. So if I could choose the taxation program that I would support that would decrease your taxes, I would go for a fair tax policy. In the state of Utah, the first budget I am going to be looking at and drafting legislation on is the entitlement. Right now, 22% of the Utah state budget goes to the Department of Health and Human Services. It is projected, if that budget is not taken into control, it is going to hit 36%. Right now, we're spending 28% on education. Health and Human Service hitting 36% would be the highest budget in the state of Utah. It is the largest for the federal government. Government was never meant to be dependent upon. It is meant to assist when necessary and to help people to be self-sustaining. So I would look at cutting in that particular budget so that we have stringent requirements for those who need assistance, exit dates for those who need to get off, so we don't have generations of individuals on state assistance. So that would be the first place. And then government agencies. They get a budget, and then if they don't use their whole budget by the end of the year, then the government takes it. So what does that create incentive-wise? Nothing. If I'm going to lose $50,000, I'll make sure I spend every single part of my budget. And so we need to help them realize that if they're going to save us money, hey, the guy in that department gets a $5,000 or a $500 bonus, and we say do it again. Utah has a good tax rate right at the moment. We need to look at property taxes and talk with local authorities on those areas. But the biggest taxation for us that is killing us is coming from Washington, D.C. And what they do with our money, I have no idea.
If you did, I would propose you be running for an office. Omniscient overlord of the universe. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that question. Okay,
Wait.
Am I supposed to read this now?
No, that's for your resume.
That's right. Yes. Okay.
But if you want to make if you want to word it in your own phrase, not everyone's question will.
Oh, yeah, not everybody's question will be answered. Sorry, you submitted too many. Should have cut you off at 8 or whatever, but we're trying to group them so that at least the same topics get asked. If your question does not get asked, please pigeonhole these guys. They have nothing better to do. So make sure that they answer your question specifically. And apparently, now this next question it will be chosen at random. I don't get to look. It's a hot topic. These are hot topic questions. I don't even get to look and see what they are.
We'll do that again.
Is the current run of form by the Los Angeles Dodgers indicative of their ability to win the World Series this year for the first time in 15 years? Oh, I'm sorry. That was my question. This they won again today. Shocking. I'm amazed. I'm going to have a heart attack. Do you support the Eagle Forum's position on abortion? I oppose abortion in all instances, including cases of rape, incest, and where the life of the mother is at issue, according to what is on this card. I do not make that representation of myself. Okay, who gets the tag? You get that one first. Ms. Kane first, 2 minutes.
I have never read the Eagles Forum's position on abortion, so I don't know if what you've read is accurate or not. So I'm concerned on commenting when I haven't read something myself, so I do want to make that clarification. When it comes to abortion, my stand is this. I pray that no one has to be in a position where they have to make that very difficult decision. That is an individual decision. My personal opinion in those particular cases that you have outlined, rape, incest, and the life of the mother, that decision rests with the person. If she's married, with her and her husband. If she's not married, perhaps, and she's younger, with her and her parents. I believe that that is an option that they should be allowed to choose. My personal opinion would be based on if I was in that moment and the circumstances of my life. I do not believe abortion is something that should be handed out liberally. But in extreme cases, the right to choose should rest with the individual who is dealing with those most difficult situations.
Thank you.
Based on your definition of the Eagle Forum's position, I feel like that I don't agree quite with that, but I think that it is a serious matter what people do with their unborn children, and that those who are unborn have rights. And I think their rights start at inception. I think there are some unusual cases where it might be acceptable to consider that under consideration with the parents or the spouse. And those would be for cases of incest or rape or where the mother's health is in jeopardy. But I know that a lot of people who choose that course for healthy babies, and even in difficult situations, regret that years later and have serious problems with that. And I think that it's detrimental to our society. It's something that we ought to look at changing in the federal government, the way we look at abortion laws, and we need to consider the unborn child's rights.
Thank you.
Chris,
Yes, sir. A point of clarification,
I feel compelled,
and I believe you're entitled.
having some connection. I don't know who submitted that information, but it's not correct. The position would be in the life of the mother only, as far as the Eagle Forum is concerned.
Okay. All right.
I
Did everybody
believe-
get a chance to hear that?
No.
Don Ruzicka here is closely affiliated with the Eagle Forum, and I think capable of stating their position rather clearly. It is his contention that the Eagle Forum's position on abortion is exception for the life of the mother only.
I believe you said that
I did say, yeah, the card does say that it includes prohibition in the case of the life of mother.
That is not
But that is
correct.
not the Eagle Forum's position, according to Don there, as a point of clarification. You need to clarify beyond what you, I think, by both of you
No, I think we both.
addressed that specifically. Okay. All right, next question. This one, it would be nice if this one really were about the Dodgers. After that last one. Is it really an efficient use of taxpayer resources to fight for control of federal lands in Utah in the current economic environment? Or are there really more important issues we should deal with? Oh, I love this question. So you get to go first, I think. Kay, you get first. Kay is first on this one.
On the federal lands issue, it's the state government put together legislation in this last session to fund $2 million plus $1 million contingency to go towards fighting for the Utah's federal lands back from the federal government. And it's lands that were promised to Utah during the creation of Utah with the Enabling Act. And the government promised to turn those lands over to Utah without setting a time limit. And so here it is, over 100 years later, that they still control the lands in Utah. Now, other states, they have relinquished that control, and they're able to use those lands for purposes of financing, education, and transportation, and they've set some lands aside for other uses, for common uses and recreation. And I think that we would be a lot more better served to have those lands under our control. I definitely think it's worth the money that it would take to go after those, because that represents billions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of jobs. Plus, it would be much more efficient for us as a state to manage those lands. And I think part of that would be to create a plan ahead of time saying, what do we do with these lands when we get them? Let's identify lands that can be used for grazing, for mining, for mineral rights, for recreation, and other opportunities for the citizens of Utah, which would be a big economic boon.
The Utah state budget is about $13 billion. And of that budget, 24% is federal money. Utah has run fiscally sound because we have increased the stimulus money that we have been able to take from the federal government. But all of us know that Washington, D.C. is broke. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And we are going to find that there'll be less and less funds coming for the state to balance its budget. So if we were to lose today 24% of our state budget, there would be an outcry of where do we cut and how do we balance. We were promised when we became a state that the federal government would sell those lands and give back to Utah 5% of their value. Well, I believe that if we owe the federal government money, they charge us interest, right? Anybody ever had to pay taxes? Well, Utah, they've owed us that land for over 100 years. So I think that they should pay interest because it's ours. So they give us our lands back, and they need to give us 95%, and they get 5%. And then we use those lands, the minerals, to balance our budget, to pay for our education, to pay for our highways. Utah, with its natural resources, has the potential to be like Alaska, where all of you, instead of paying state taxes, could get a check. Now that would be nice. There's your tax cut right there. And so yes, I strongly support that we get our federal lands back, and we use them, and we preserve them for open space, for hunting and hiking and four-wheelers, and that Utah manages. And if they don't give it back to us, we have the right to take it. It's our land, and under sheriff law in some counties, they're beginning to exercise that. This is our land, part of our state agreement. The federal government is in violation, not Utah.
Okay. Is there an immigration problem in Utah? If so, how would you define and solve this problem? 2 minutes.
Good luck.
I sent out an email today that said how much illegal immigration cost the United States last year. $332 billion. It is estimated that illegal immigration cost the state of Utah 4% of its budget. And we're barely balancing. Utah doesn't have the right to deal with immigration. That was given to the federal government in the Constitution. That's one of those rights that they have that they don't do, and then they take over and do all the things they're not supposed to. What Utah can do is deal with jobs. We can strengthen our e-verification laws. We have the right to look at business license for individuals who employ illegal immigrants. And the other thing that the legislature can do, which I intend to do when I'm elected, pick up the phone, call all of the western states that are dealing with the same problem, and say, let's all pass the same initiative. Let's all pass the same law that says we want the federal government to deal with illegal immigration. And it's 2 problems. 1, we are a sovereign nation. We have the right to protect our borders. All countries do. And second, we need to streamline the process. It takes way too long, and it costs way too much. The United States has always welcomed people to come, but we don't want them to come just because they're connected to us. We want them to come from all countries of the world. That's how the United States got started. My ancestors are from Germany. So I can deal with illegal immigration by e-verification, looking at businesses who employ illegal immigrants, and picking up the phone and calling the other states and say, let's work on this together. Utah by itself, Arizona by itself, Idaho by itself, we won't fix the problem, but all of us together can. The other thing you need to know is Utah is only one of 2 states in the United States that give driver's cards to illegal immigrants. That needs to change.
Thank you. Okay.
The immigration in Utah has been addressed over the past several years, and really it is a function of the federal government to take care of immigration. That's something that they're advocating to the states, and you've seen what most recently in Arizona, Arizona has thrown their hands in the air and said if the federal government's not going to take care of this, we're going to do something about it. And now there's a lawsuit from the federal government, and it's going to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court should rule on that by the end of the month. If Arizona can do with the immigration laws what they're doing, that will clarify a lot of the things for Utah. We can take that information and then proceed forward to take care of the illegal immigration. And all of us are immigrants or have come from immigrant forefathers, and I think there's a definite place for having immigrants continue to come into our great country, but we need to do it in an orderly process and make it easy for, we need to simplify that process so that people can come here that can add to our economy, that can add to our society, and do it the right way. We have too many people coming in the back door, and the federal government needs to step up, secure the borders, and allow manageable, meaningful immigration to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys ask really good questions. These are terrific. How would you engage the free market in Utah to reduce healthcare costs? 2 minutes.
The idea of implementing the free market enterprise system can be used on almost any area of government. I gave you the short story about just a simple idea of the garbage service, but it could be used for every area where the government could subcontract out any operation or service and become contract administrators and oversee that, and they could watch those contracts, they could set up a specification of what they wanted, they could invite bidders to come in and set up, for example, a 5-year term where these people can come in and operate that service for the state. And then if there are problems with how that is operated or functioning, then the people can go to the government and say, that's not happening the way you promised, we're not satisfied. It can be bid out to another contractor to come in and operate that service. And I think that, in the healthcare, it's the same way. There are a lot of services that are managed by the state government and controlled in many cases by the federal government, which again, federal government has no authority in healthcare issues. But we need to pull that authority back to the states. We need to push it out where private individuals can be involved and we don't compete against our own citizens.
You do ask good questions. A couple things. First of all, we need to allow any of the medical and insurance entities that would like to come into Utah fairly compete. We need to open charters. We have insurance companies here in the state of Utah that are capable of exempting out of anything that they don't want to cover. And so then we have certain areas that people can't, especially who are self-employed, aren't able to get insurance to cover certain issues. And so we need to be able to make it so that anyone who wishes to have a charter in the state of Utah, insurance-wise, can. One of the other big issues with healthcare is Medicaid. Let me give you an example. A Medicaid client could cut their finger and require a few stitches. You and I would typically probably go to our doctor's office or go to an urgent care center to get those stitches. A Medicaid client can show up at the ER, and as taxpayers we end up paying thousands of dollars for stitches in a finger. We need to change that. There need to be policies in place that individuals who are on Medicaid are sent to certain facilities for certain needs. Now, if they're having a heart attack, cardiac arrest, of course we expect them to go to the emergency room. But if they have a cough or a cold, then there are other areas in which they can go. Second of all, copays. A $3 copay for a Medicaid client. They can spend $3 on a candy bar or a pack of gum and mints. I believe strongly that we need to change the copay requirement. I don't know about you guys and what you're paying in copay insurance, but most of us are paying $25, $50. And so we need to allow them to be able to participate and pay larger copays. We need to not subsidize certain parts of healthcare and allow it to compete freely. Taxes should not be subsidizing entities that provide medical services. That should be able to be a fair market competition.
Thank you. Another hot topic. Okay, we have time for 2 more questions, so we're going to do a hot topic. Good. And then we'll then we'll have 1 more question, and then we'll have our summation. Okay. This is not my favorite
You
part.
can take them up to the candidates and let them.
Oh, hey, why not? Good, but I don't have to.
You can choose. Because what if we disagree? You can just choose.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's do this. I'll call an audible because I've got the mic right now. Tell you what, you choose one, and you choose one, and you get to answer different questions for the first time all night.
Okay.
There you go. There you go.
Can I change?
Christy, you're holding the mic, so you get to go first on this one.
All right, here's the question. In the last regular session, the Utah legislature passed a bill forbidding the discussion of contraception in public schools. Governor Herbert vetoed it. How would you have voted and why? Thank you.
You people are great.
Okay,
Terrific.
my answer is I would not have voted, and this is why. That is not where this discussion is supposed to take place. It does not belong in the public classroom. It belongs with families. It belongs in community organizations. It belongs in churches. It belongs in nonprofit organizations. I can promise you that if the schools did not teach contraception, the argument that it wouldn't get taught is false. Planned Parenthood is more than willing to teach it. Parents are more than willing to sit down with their kids and teach them. And kids obviously discuss it back and forth. I do not believe the classroom is the place to teach contraception. The classroom is the place to teach reading, writing, arithmetic. It is a place to teach health, reproduction, not contraception. So I would have preferred not to vote at all, because my vote would have been, it doesn't belong there. My facility is located in Nevada. I have wonderful Harry Reid as the senator over there. One of the most liberal states. They give condoms in the classrooms. Trust me, it has not stopped unwanted pregnancies. It has not in any way decreased venereal diseases. Statistically, the only thing that makes a difference is parental standards talking to their children. And so in this case, there wouldn't have been a yes or a no. There would have been a no vote at all from Christy Kane.
I can't wait to hear what this one is.
My question is, who do you think will win the NBA playoffs? Actually, it's, do you support or oppose statewide legislation to prohibit discrimination in housing and employment based on actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender identification? If it is modeled on similar ordinances passed in Salt Lake City and several other cities, why or why not? My idea of passing laws should be blind to those things that we normally take as discriminatory practices. In other words, the law should be based on what happens and the facts, not whether you're disabled or you have sexual orientation different or a religious bias or gender or whatever. I think that a law is a law and it should be enforced and prosecuted the same for everyone. And so I don't think there should be separate restrictions or requirements based on whether it's sexual orientation or these other differences that we have in society.
Okay. And the last question before we go to our 3-minute summation. It's got 2 parts. What a surprise. Part A. Once elected, how will you decide which bills to support and which to oppose, and when to compromise? And Part B. Which committees are you most interested in serving on? Okay. Okay.
Okay. I was asked that about a week and a half ago. How would I vote on tough issues and things that maybe I hadn't thought about before? How would I make those decisions? And I go back to something I said in my opening statement about what is the role of government and where does it get its authority? Its authority comes from each of us. And so if me and my neighbor can get together and we can impose something on another neighbor and get the other neighbors involved in doing that, then maybe the government has that right. But I don't think we do have those rights, and so the government has no authority to do that. And so when I look at legislation, I'm going to say, what really can we do, first of all, as a government agency? What will we do that will help build our families and encourage economic growth and strengthen the society? And those are the things that I think that we need to look at individually. The other part of the question was committees. The committees are determined, the assignments are determined by the House leader, and but the things that I feel like I'm qualified for are transportation and the natural resources and the geographical items in the state. So the things that have to do with engineering and transportation, I'm strong on.
Would you reread the question?
I'd be happy to. Once elected, how will you decide which bills to support, which to oppose, and when to compromise? And what committees are you most interested in serving on?
All of us know that when it comes to make a decision, if you're too far left or you're too far right, nothing can get done. There always has to be diplomacy, and we have to be willing to look at things from all perspectives and make the very best decision that we can make. Fundamentally, there are principles that are never, ever to be compromised. What is wrong is wrong. What is right is right. That is one of the fundamental ways in which I will make a decision. If government is overstepping boundaries where it does not belong, my vote will be no, because she was never intended to be our taskmaster, and she's becoming such. Second of all, I'm going to ask, what is it going to cost you as citizens? I don't need to go into the legislature to have my name recognized and written in history. I don't have to pass bills. What I'd like to do is get rid of a lot of them that have taken away our freedoms. So I might be known as the person who writes bills to get rid of bills, so that we can be effective as citizens. The committee I feel most strongest about is to sit on the Department of Health and Human Services. You know, I bring an interesting perspective. Somebody asked me if there's any mental health counselor in the legislature. I said, I don't know. There's a lot of attorneys, there's engineers, but I don't know if there's a mental health counselor. But I feel very strongly that I can sit on the board and look at entitlements and say, no, that does not require permanent state assistance. No, we can cut that. I also want to sit and work on the Lands Act. I'm endorsed by Ken Sumption. I'm running for his seat, and he started that. And I've seen what can happen when lands are taken and jobs are lost. My dad's a miner, so I want to sit on that committee as well. I will make decisions based on what the Constitution says. And that's what our government should be ruled by.
Okay, before we get to our summations, I would love it if we could have a round of applause for our candidates. Well deserved for both of you, and thank you both for taking an enormous amount of time and money and going through a great deal of trouble for the privilege of representing a bunch of people who will mostly just complain to you for the next 2 years about the stuff that you're going to do. I'm sure they told you that when you signed up, right?
Okay.
All right. That's sort of the job description in a thumbnail. Thank you both very much for your willingness to serve and for your participation here this evening. Before we close with that, let me also remind you again, June 19th, those who came in late, June the 19th, Tuesday, is the next debate, 7 to 8 at American Fork Junior High School.
Oh, Chris, on
Yes.
that one, it's actually 7 to 9. Each time they're going to have the state candidates there.
Okay.
The Attorney General.
7 to 9. So come at like 6:30, mill around, shake hands with your friendly faces here, get ready to grill people, and stay as long as you like. How about that?